Kevin Green was very limited today, individual with an ankle. Josh Shaw had an issue this morning with his back, so he wasn't able to go. Nate Gertler has a hamstring, so he couldn't go. Jesse Scroggins, hip, re-aggravated his hip, so he was not able to go. Robert Woods did very little with his ankle. And out for spring, most likely, are Torrin Harris, Christian Hayward, John Katnick, Kyle Negretti, Christian Thomas, Chad Wheeler, Devontae Wilson. And during practice, Xavier Grimble and Junior Palme came out and did not return. Thoughts from the first day, I thought there were some really good things. You know, just thinking back to 2 years ago, being on the same field, I think we've come a long ways as you look around at our players, the way they look and how they run. And so I think that's a heck credit, obviously, to our assistant coach and recruiting, but a lot to our strength staff. I think that our guys look really good. Obviously, we have some depth concerns at a number of spots. And as far as, you know, the MVP of the day probably was George Farmer. Really, you know, to see him healthy out here and the way that he caught the ball today and his confidence is very different than last time we were with him. So obviously that was great to see.
I know it doesn't change the way you prepare, but just not having that dark cloud hanging over you guys anymore, knowing that these guys are out preparing for something bigger than they've been able to play for in the last 2 years.
I think it's refreshing really to our fans, you know, and to our players, but it doesn't change anything that we do. You know, we're not all of a sudden prepare any different and, you know, coach our players any different or get ready for opponents any different. You know, we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing.
Would you say it was a different feeling this year, though? It was a song blasting on speakers. I get a good feeling. Seemed representative of how the players are feeling today.
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the bowl game. I think that's just in general. I think they feel good about themselves. They feel confident because they came off of, you know, ending the season very well, and a number of the returners were significant players. You know, some of them All-Americans. So that's very different than the year before. You know, or especially the 2 years before that. So I just think in general they have a good feeling about themselves. It comes from confidence, which comes from experience, success.
What's going to be your strategy with Robert Woods? Are you going to try to kind of bring him along slowly? Because there's no, you know, you don't want to push it and have him re-aggravate that thing.
Yeah, you know, with Robert, we'll definitely move very slow. You know, I think we know a lot about Robert. You know, we know who he is. We know how he is as a player. We've played him at all three of our receiver spots and in the backfield. So I think it's very rare to have only had a guy really for a year and a half, basically, and him to have done so much. So probably more than anyone on our team outside of maybe Matt. You know, he would need to be out there. So we'll go very slow with him. I actually thought he would practice today, and kind of last week, kind of late in the week, was set back a little bit. So we're just very safe. Probably could have done some stuff today.
Did you get a sense that George is really determined to prove himself out here?
I do. I thought that George was very confident. I thought that he looks great. He looks healthy. He looks strong. He's going after the ball, and I think that just comes from, you know, his confidence. And a lot of times, like we talked about last year, that's the norm with all players, even when they're the five-star players. You know, the norm is not Marquise Lee and Robert Woods. You know, those are rare, you know, situations. We talk about every year there's about 5 significant impact true freshmen around the country. And so normally they take a little bit of time to adjust, like George, especially if they're not mid-years.
What did you think how Matt performed today?
I thought, you know, it's pretty easy for Matt, obviously. You know, we can't install a million plays in day one with the other kids. So Matt was fine, just looks like where he left off, and it was not very challenging right now. And he gets a little bit bored. But what was good, you didn't see him force a million balls. You know, I thought at the beginning of last fall camp, he got a little bored in a few of those practices when we talked about he had some interceptions going. And so it was good to see he didn't do much of that today.
What about the other quarterbacks? Max, Cody?
Yeah, I thought Max and Cody threw the ball really well. And, you know, now they look like they've been here for a while. And I think they're both going to be really good players.
Tony Burnett,
your new assistants, how'd you rate them today, their first practice?
Yeah, I thought they fit in really well. They're very comfortable. They're really good teachers, and they're confident. So I think that comes out. You know, we spent a lot of time getting ready for this day in meetings and even walkthroughs and stuff. But I think you can see that they're pretty confident. And the players seem to really take to them, even in special teams as well.
You guys moved Tony Burnett back to safety, and when Josh is available, is he going to play corner or safety?
Yeah, really with Torrin Harris out, and Brian Bachman wasn't actually cleared until yesterday with an issue, so that really makes it, you know, where one of those guys or both of them may have to do both. And so if we were fully healthy, both those guys would be safety would be the idea, both Josh and Tony.
Are you going to be a little cautious with the running back because there's such a lack of depth in Curtis Sino? Obviously, you want to make sure he doesn't get injured and all that.
Yeah, that is a very scary position for us, to have so little experience and numbers there in general, and really nothing coming to help that very much. So we've got to be careful with Curtis, but continue to develop him because he has some weaknesses in his game that we'd really like to get caught up with the rest of his game.
You sense guys itching a little bit to get out there. It's been a while since you guys practiced. No bowl game practices or anything. It's been a long time since you guys have been on the field.
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were kind of, had gone through such a long off season of lifting and running, and to finally be out here with coaches and balls, I think they were really excited.
What do you know about Allen as a possible running back?
Yeah, Buck had an injury in high school. He had a good sophomore year, and then he got hurt. Partway through his junior year, I believe, is when it was, if I recall right. And so to see him full strength now is going to be exciting. You can't tell very much with the running backs with no pads because there's no holes. You can't really block very well. So, it'll be big for him and DJ to see them as we get into scrimmage formats.
Lane, what's your philosophy on Pro Day? They were pretty restrictive across town with that. What's your feeling on who should be there, who should not be there?
I don't really have a feeling. I don't really feel like the Pro Day is really my Pro Day. I really feel like it's more for the players that now that I've left here and for the NFL. So I really don't. It doesn't bother me very much. I don't spend much time on it, especially because where it lands. It lands right in the middle of our spring ball, and I don't think last year I don't think I went out there.
Do you think parents should be able to watch their kids go through that?
Yes, I do.
How much are you keeping up with their progress, with the guys that are training?
A little bit. They come back. Nick Perry was here today, and Matt came back to see us the other day, and so we'll get reports sometimes from it. I don't sit and watch it, but get their numbers in and stuff.
At some point in time, are you going to move Andre Walker over to left side and see what he looks like over there?
Don't know that yet. That'll depend as we get pads on and how they're both playing. If they're both playing really well where they're at, there'd be no reason to move them.
Did it seem like he was moving better today and had better endurance? And that
yeah, he's completely different. I mean, if you were to watch just when we'd go from stretch drills down to the offensive line drills a year ago, he was always the last guy, and I would look for him today to be last, and he was the first guy down there actually. So when you lose 60 pounds, you move a little bit better too.
But how are you going to divide the reps up with the other quarterbacks?
Yeah, right now we're going to split it right down the middle and see how that goes. That may be for a long time, maybe for a little time. We're just going to see how it works out. But we're going to give an even chance here initially.
Is Armand going to be able to work tomorrow? Do you know anything about that at the pro day?
I'm not sure of that, no.
Coach, T. Martin.